Hi, my name is Joe. I'm a technician here at New Life Scientific. Today we're kind of look at start relays on ULT freezers. This is a Thermo UXF negative 86 degree freezer. This is pretty much how all of this model looks. This is standard. We're going to be looking at these start relays. Each compressor, and there's two compressors in the system, each compressor has its own start relay, which provides starting power to the compressor to get it turning, and then it turns off and lets the actual run circuit, the running capacitor, take care of it. These are a common component that go bad in ULTs and anything that has a compressor that turns on and off a lot, because they get a lot of work. I'd say at least these will probably get activated at least 24 to 30 to 40 times a day, depending on what temperature you have it set, how much you're in your freezer and whatnot. So over the years, that adds up to lots of cycling of that relay. And to kind of talk about some of the symptoms you might see if one's going bad. So once a compressor starts, if this is going bad, usually they go bad by welding themselves shut. I'll show you one that's not in too bad shape. But these contacts here, this is normally closed when the start circuit kicks on, and when it's started and it's turning, probably about after it gets power, maybe a second or less than that, it lifts up and it takes the start circuit out, so that you're not giving it that much power, because it's way too much for running. Just for starting, you need that. So what will happen is these will get hot after they start working a lot. One thing I've noticed is when you turn a freezer on from ambient temperature and wait for it to get cold, generally it works fine. When it has this problem, it works fine. It's once you start getting to your set point and it starts cycling, let's say you set it at -70, and it goes down to -68, and it kicks on, and gets back to -70, and it keeps cycling through like that. That's when you'll start to see the problem, because it'll start to get hot because it's cycling more, and it'll start to weld itself shut to where your electromagnet will try to pick up the contact and won't be able to. It'll just stick, and that's sending way too much power to your compressor. And you can get, I think, two or three things happen. One is the thermal protection in the compressor will kick out, and because the compressor is getting too hot, and it'll kill the compressor. After a few minutes go by, that thermal overload will cool back down, it'll close again, and then it'll keep doing that over and over again. So you'll have a compressor turning on for a few seconds, kicking out for a few minutes, on for a few seconds, off for a few minutes. And it'll just keep doing that as the temperature drops and drops and drops, or I should say rises. Another thing that can happen is it'll pull so much current that it'll trip the breaker, either this breaker here, this is a breaker switch, it's a combination. It'll either trip that, or it'll trip the breaker in the actual breaker box. Either one can happen, it just depends on specifics of the situation. But so if you're having a freezer that runs great when you start it up, gets all the way to temperature, stays there for a while, and all of a sudden you'll notice the temperature you'll start losing your temperature, and especially if you hear the compressor kicking on and off, a really short period of time, this could be the problem. Also, like I said, if you're blowing a breaker after you've gotten to temperature and it's just cycling, and you're kicking off breakers, either this one or the one on the wall or the one in the breaker box, this could be the problem. So I actually had one that I was working on that was doing this. I would turn it on, it would run great, and it would go from ambient all the way to -86, and then it would start cycling, -86 down to -84 and back and forth, so the compressors would kick on and off, and it was running great. And then I'd leave for the night, and I'd come back the next morning, and this breaker had tripped. At first night, I was like, maybe it was just something funny with the power last night, power surge or something. So I did it again, and it tripped again. So the first thing I went to, because I've had to deal with this a few times, is the start relay. And this was what I found in that freezer I was having problems with. So if you look, here's the case. So it was It was pretty bad shape. You got carbon buildup everywhere. You got, if you look really closely, I don't know if the camera might not be able to see it, but there's little metal splatter all over the contacts. So this thing had seen better days. So what was happening was when the start circuit went to turn off, it couldn't lift this contact up, and it kept the contact kind of welded shut because it was, the hot metal had solidified and stuck the contacts together, so it wouldn't lift, and it just kept all that high current going through that compressor and kicked the breaker off. So it's not these components, I think they're like 40 bucks, maybe 45 bucks. It's not terrible. But if you don't want to spend the money, or you want it fixed now and you don't want to wait, I found that this is what you'll commonly see. This one's really bad, but this is what you'll commonly see. But even this one, I would say it could probably be salvaged. Ideally, you'd buy a new one, but if you couldn't do it and you needed it working, all I do, if I think the relay's in good enough shape to save, I will actually clean these contacts off. And I'll pop this little spring off. Hold on a second. There we go. So you pop the spring off, you take out the arm, and then you can get to the contact really good. You can get in there and you just sand back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and you sand this contact so you get all that carbon buildup off, and you get any little lumps, the tiny little specks of metal off the contact, get it nice and smooth and flat again. And then after that, give it, maybe squirt some alcohol on it, blow it off, and it'll run for a while longer, and you may even get years out of it, depending on what condition it's in when you take it out. But yeah, that'll get you back and running pretty much right away. And like I said, it's a pretty common problem. And based on the symptoms I described, like I said, you start from ambient, like you just defrosted your freezer, turn it on, it works great, it gets the temperature, holds it for a while, cycles for a while, everything's perfect, and all of a sudden you start getting these weird problems like that. A lot of times that's probably going to be what it is. And it's really easy to get to in here. There's only 3 wires hooked up. You take out a screw, pull the wires out, and to open up the case, it's pretty simple too. You just literally pop in here, pry up one side, pry up the other side, and there you go. Really quick and easy. And it's something worth trying, and if you don't want to pay someone to come out, or you need it, like I said, you need it fixed right now, it's worth looking at as an issue. So very common. Hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, you can always call us, email us. We're willing to help out on stuff like this, and of course we sell lots of ultra low temperature freezers, and we're pretty good at them, working on them. So thanks.